Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a seriously fascinating journey into the DNA of successful companies. We're going to move from those rigid, black and white corporate blueprints right into the colorful, living, breathing ecosystem of human relationships that, honestly, is where the real work happens. If you've ever wondered why some companies hum along like a well-oiled machine, while others just descend into absolute chaos, well, you're in exactly the right place.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. Here's our roadmap. We'll be covering the corporate blueprint, why structure matters, the formal hierarchy, the hidden grapevine, and finally, striking the perfect balance.
Let's start right at the foundation. Section 1, the corporate blueprint.
So whether you're looking at a scrappy little startup, a massive university, or a sprawling government agency, an organization is fundamentally just a group of people working systematically to hit some common goals. But here's the catch, right? Simply throwing a bunch of talented people in a room to generate profits or, educate students is never going to be enough. Management's critical function of organizing has to step in. We literally have to systematically coordinate their work, assign explicit responsibilities, and define authority. Otherwise, nothing gets done.
So, the crucial point here lies in organizational structure itself. This is the framework, basically a blueprint, that directs task allocation, coordination, supervision, communication, and decision-making. Think of it as the invisible skeleton holding the whole corporate body together. It specifies exactly who reports to whom, who's got the authority to make the really tough calls, and exactly how information flows from top to bottom. To really wrap our heads around this, just imagine massive companies like Amazon or Tata Consultancy Services, but without any managers. Just picture it for a second. You've got thousands of employees in finance, HR, R&D, all just showing up to work. Without that structure, nobody knows who their boss is. Nobody knows what they're actually supposed to be doing. It would be total, unmitigated chaos. Work would get duplicated constantly. Important decisions would just stall out, and productivity would literally flatline.
Which brings us neatly to Section 2, why structure matters.
Why do management teams spend hundreds of hours just agonizing over these formal frameworks? Well, they're fulfilling some absolutely critical purposes. A good structure divides work into specific jobs, assigns precise responsibilities, coordinates different departments, establishes clear reporting relationships, defines formal authority, and allocates resources efficiently. It's a lot, I know, but think about a manufacturing plant. The production team absolutely cannot build anything unless the purchasing team is structurally coordinated to actually buy the raw materials first, right? Structure ensures that sequence happens smoothly every single time.
Now, why does this matter for you and your career? Clear structures give everybody an incredible sense of clarity, allowing employees to really focus in and achieve deep specialization. It cuts down on duplicated work and makes communication way faster and more systematic. And if you're a manager, this improved control means you can evaluate performance and course correct without wasting precious time. Basically, everyone knows what they're supposed to do and who's checking their work.
Let's move to see how this builds in Section 3, the formal hierarchy.
So every organization has two main types of relationships, and the formal system is our starting point. Formal relationships are those officially established connections that define authority, responsibility, accountability, and communication. We're talking about the stuff meticulously documented in organizational charts, company policies, and job descriptions. This formal system, it provides the essential stability, discipline, and consistency for a company to actually function efficiently on paper. It's the deliberate, official chain of command.
Let's look at a banking scenario to see this chain in action. Step 1, you have the customer service executive at the front desk. They report directly to Step 2, the branch manager. That branch manager reports up to Step 3, the regional manager. And finally, the regional manager answers to Step 4, the zonal manager. This right here perfectly illustrates how decision-making and authority flow vertically straight through those official channels. It's clean, it's predictable, and for sure, it ensures total accountability.
But you've got to ask yourself, what happens off the paper? What happens when human nature takes over and people start interacting completely outside of those neat little boxes on the org chart?
That brings us to Section 4, the hidden grapevine.
This is the natural, spontaneous human element that management doesn't create, but absolutely has to understand. Because beneath that rigid corporate chart is a vibrant, dynamic network of informal relationships. These are the connections that just kind of happen spontaneously through everyday social interactions, forming flexible communication networks that we usually call the grapevine. Now, managers sometimes stress over rumors spreading through the grapevine, but honestly,
These natural interactions over lunch or grabbing a quick coffee actually strengthen teamwork. They boost morale, satisfy our social needs, and spread vital information incredibly fast, based entirely on interpersonal trust rather than official job titles.
And this brilliantly illustrates the duality we're talking about. Just look at a standard software team. On the formal side, all the developers officially report to the project manager to ensure discipline and, make sure the project actually gets done. But on the informal side, those same developers are solving complex coding problems, swapping technical knowledge, and brainstorming over lunch, totally regardless of who officially reports to whom. The team relies on the hierarchy for discipline, sure, but it desperately needs that informal knowledge sharing to spark actual creativity.
Let's break this down completely and do a quick comparison. First up, creation. Management deliberately designs the formal structure, but the informal one emerges totally spontaneously. Second, purpose. The formal tackles company goals and profitability, while the informal satisfies human, social needs. Third, communication. Formal uses strict official channels, whereas informal uses that rapid-fire grapevine. Fourth, focus. Formal is all about task performance, but the informal is anchored in interpersonal trust. And finally, authority. Formal relies on the official hierarchy, while informal relies entirely on personal influence and respect.
Which brings us to our final core concept in Section 5, striking the perfect balance. The reality is, you cannot manage effectively without seeing both sides of this coin, especially as organizations scale up globally. What's really interesting here is that this isn't just business school theory, it's the actual operational philosophy of tech titans. Giants like Google, Microsoft, Infosys, and Tata are massive, wildly complex entities. Yes, they maintain strict, formal hierarchies to keep operations running smoothly, but they also actively design collaborative workspaces and open networking environments to purposely fuel that informal grapevine. They know for a fact that mastering this balance between the formal blueprint and the informal ecosystem is the absolute only way to adapt and innovate while staying efficient.
So we'll leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. As you navigate this complex, constantly shifting business world, how are you going to balance the blueprint with the grapevine? How will you respect the necessary structure and accountability while actively nurturing the spontaneous human ecosystem that actually drives innovation? Keep that in mind as you work with your own teams. Master both, and honestly, you'll be unstoppable. Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we really hope this helps you build highly efficient, connected, and wildly successful organizations.